news from Royale, the first national brand to offer recyclable, plastic-free packaging for some of your favorite products. Same Royale quality, now in larger paper packs. Recyclable where facilities exist.
HomeSense opens a new world of opportunities when it comes to decorating, because you don't have to sacrifice quality for price. So you can get that solid marble cheese board from $29.99, or those Turkish cotton hand towels from $7.99, with plenty left over for that mug you had your eye on. Endless possibilities, perfectly priced, only at HomeSense.
Age of Radio.
Hey, it's Mr. Positivity Wolfie T from the WTM Watch This Movie podcast. Why did I choose the movie Loqueesha for What Were They Thinking listener's choice? Well, first, the premise is a middle-aged white guy putting on a black woman voice to get a job on a radio show. And I know Brendan and Nathan are going to hate that on principle alone. Now, to me, the premise is maybe the least offensive thing about this movie, because the execution is so much worse. The voice the guy does for Loqueesha sounds like a white guy doing an impersonation of a white guy's impression of a black voice, and it's insulting to anybody that they want you to believe that people fell for this. On top of that, every single thing that happens in this movie is insulting to your intelligence. It's just a pain to get through. Unfunny, just horrible. So, sorry guys. I'm glad you picked my movie, but I know you're going to hate it. So, I look forward to hearing your thoughts on it, of just how bad you think it is.
You know when I pick a movie, that's when I'm under pressure now. The question always comes back to me, what were they thinking now? Whoa, what were they thinking? What were they thinking?
Oh, welcome to another episode of What Were They Thinking? And yeah, it's not going to be the end of us, but it's definitely a bit of our dignity maybe died a bit with this one. Self-respect as well. And I'm pretty sure I was going to burn in hell before this, but I mean, this probably clenches it. Ladies and gentlemen, I, of course, am your host, Nathan. And
be careful. Be careful. If you say the Loqueesha to my Joe, I swear to God.
You know what? We're gonna forego tradition this week. With me, as always, is my ever faithful co-host, Brendan. Say hello and introduce yourself there, bud.
Hello, I am Brendan, and I am the most grateful person in the world for not being called Loqueesha this week.
Oh, man.
I think I am now.
At least he apologized. I'm gonna say up front before we get rolling. At least, the person who gifted this to us.
I thought you meant the director. I was like,
no.
There
was
no apology given by him at all.
No. And understood out of the gate that we were how we did not put this one on the list with Sallow and Serbian film is beyond me.
Yeah, well, nobody had sex with their son, I guess, in this movie, so I guess that puts it a step above that, maybe. But
Okay.
Nathan, I think I'm an empty vessel now after this movie. And why don't you everyone could see the title of the episode, but you just tell them what we watched.
We watched Loqueesha, and I'm very, very sorry for anybody who decided, well, you know what, I gotta watch it if I'm gonna know what they're talking about. It was free on Tubi, and I still wanted my money back.
I want double my money back and my
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
And I want a free subscription to the free service that is Tubi, commercial free.
Free lifetime subscription to Tubi.
Yep.
Well, you know what? Just pitter
Why
patter.
don't
Let's
you
get at her.
Well,
I mean,
yeah. What's the plot of this movie, Nathan? Surely nothing troubling.
okay. Well, plot. I'm gonna preface it with Dolly Parton and James Woods did it better in Straight Talk. But it was like not racist at all. But this,
Which is
the
funny because
story.
one of them is quite racist now.
Well, our quote unquote hero, Joe.
Played by
is
writer, actor,
director,
editor, probably producer,
producer.
probably caterer, field correspondent, Jeremy Saville.
Like a disgusting Neil Breen, if that lets you know where we're at.
And let's just remember, Neil Breen base level's already pretty disgusting.
Yes, Joe is a bartender who apparently dispenses amazing advice, but can't keep his marriage together. He's divorced, and he runs into a conundrum where his son is deemed gifted, and his ex-wife wants to put him into a gifted school in their area of where they live in Detroit.
Oh, that premise doesn't sound so bad. All right, Nathan, I guess I judged this movie wrong.
Not done.
Oh.
So he needs to figure out a way that he's going to make up the money because he's not going to be able to pay for this $30,000 tuition or some ridiculous amount, like college level tuition for this this private school for his son. He's not going to be able to pay that working at a bar. So he sends in a demo tape to get a gig as a talk radio host, dispensing his advice on the advice of one of his bar patrons. He doesn't get it, but then figures maybe if I was to do it in a black voice, because they said in the ad that minorities and women were actually welcomed because they wanted they want the diverse sound and input. And so he does that. He pretends to be a black woman and sends in an audition and gets the job, and then has to figure out a way to be a talk radio host dispensing advice as a black woman. I'm dying inside just talking about this.
Guys, you're listening to a man lose every fiber of his being right now.
Hilarity does not ensue.
It does not. I don't even want to jokingly say that it does.
Yeah.
There's no part of hilarity that I witnessed on screen.
No. And again, well, we're gonna get into it. So let's just pitter patter. Let's get at her.
Don't bore us. Get to the chorus.
Yeah. Sooner begun, sooner
done.
We start off. We find that this is a two guys per picture production.
I wrote that down too.
And given what is put on screen, I'm pretty sure it should have been two guys, one cup. We get our opening where we meet Joe, and of course, like I said, he's a bartender and he is dispensing advice to the local barflies who's just seen to think his words are straight from the lips of God himself, because everything he says is just right, and he confesses that when he gives this advice, he's not really talking to the patrons, he's talking to himself.
By the way, that's the first thing I want to get out of the way too. They talk about how, oh, Joe, like, you just know what to say. You just know what to say, when to say it. Like, you're just so good at words. And I'm like, he's giving the most basic, like, base level advice.
It's all platitudes.
It's all like, be yourself, say what you truly feel. Like, don't pretend to care when you don't. And it's just bullshit like that. And it's like, okay, dude, you couldn't even bother to, like, I don't know, research some like half decent advice to give,
or
this
at the
character?
very least, frame it as a parable if you're going to pretend to be Jesus.
Yeah,
Uh,
let's get some crosses in here for Mr. Saville.
and he likes working at the bar that he works at, which the the positioning in the bar changes quite a bit throughout the movie. I'm almost positive that they shot in two different bars because
Yeah.
there's sections where it's like, hey, that doesn't look like the bar from before.
No, and also halfway through the movie he has a boss that we just meet all of a
Yeah, you
sudden.
figured you would have met her in this opening scene, her with
Ye-
just her telling her to get back to work.
Yeah, you know how most movies like establish things at the beginning
Yeah, this
because you
just
don't know them.
establishes how great Joe is at giving advice because that's the only thing you need to know. And
Okay, I'm scared. Hold on. Do we ever find out his last name?
I think they say it at one point,
Please tell me it doesn't start with a C. I pray to him.
like the little dude from Kid Rock's
No,
Entourage.
no. I'm just worried his initials were JC.
Oh, JC. Okay, I thought you were
I'm
talking about the little guy I used to rap with, Kid Rock, who sadly passed away.
okay. He's only credited as Joe.
Okay,
So okay, thank God. Thank
all
God.
right.
I was like, they're really getting into the Jesus parable here.
Yeah, well, I mean that. Anyhow, he's just dispensing it to his regular barflies, and then this lady comes in, and she's had it up to here with her boyfriend and everything like that, and she says, I need something strong, and gives her a shot of what he calls bottled rage, which apparently was just a little too strong for her. Although she did drink the whole thing because shit's expensive, and if you pay for it, you drink it. That's how alcohol works.
That's how it works.
Yeah. What's her name? I have it noted here because he lied. I'll get into that.
We
He
should
lies
point
to
out for the
her. And,
point of for the purpose of the story, though, we should point out that she is a black woman. That's important.
yes, I'm not sure because we've got a few people of color in this movie, and I don't know how they read the script and didn't go, fuck no.
Is her name Rachel?
I think so.
Yeah, it is because he calls her Ray a bunch of times.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's Rachel.
All right. So this is Rachel, and she's she's had it with her boyfriend, and she is just castigating all men everywhere because she's upset with her boyfriend. And of course, Joe has to be like, whoa, all men, come on. And then he starts like naming off people, like Gandhi and
Does he name Gandhi? Does he just name Gandhi?
just
What else is
don't get ahead of me, okay? Because I will actually say this too. Gandhi often does gets remembered with some rose-colored glasses. He did some great things. Also, not that great of a person behind the scenes, from what I've told. But I mean, as I've said before, you dig deep enough, you find out eventually everyone's a piece of shit, unless it's Tom Hanks and Bob Ross and Steve Irwin and Mister Rogers. So 4, get you 4. That's it.
James Woods?
But no, he doesn't just name Gandhi. He does.
Oh.
He does his little the Gandhi's sitcom pitch, complete with terrible accents,
It makes Hank Azaria's work in The Simpsons look subtle.
and I guess and less racist because I mean it's just this is
It's real bad. It's real
Real-
bad.
real.
And this is like I wrote down when they did this, I was like, oh, this is foreshadowing how bad it's gonna get later.
Yeah. And when he's giving her advice, he calls her an idiot.
Yep.
And again, more platitudes and one-liners to her about, being true to herself and not needing him and
And
all this stuff is like, it's not great. It's not this unwashed peon savant advice from this bartender. It's shit that you would hear from any bartender or anybody who wants to give you what they think is helpful advice.
I just want to say that everything this fucking actor does in this movie, the actor, writer, director, Jeremy Saville. So if you want to point your blame at anyone, it's him and solely him. He says every line as if it's like the fucking best line of dialogue ever written. Like he has this smug nature and it doesn't feel like it's the character. It feels like it's him. And you just like in his head, he's just like, guys, we're nailing this.
Yeah. Yeah. We get to meet his ex-wife, who of course is an absolute shrill harpy.
Well, yeah, she's a woman in this movie.
Well, she's she's a woman in this movie who doesn't want anything to do with him.
Right, so she must be crazy.
It's got to be a crazy shrill harpy. They have a kid together, and this is where we find out that their son was tested at school for IQ, and he's been deemed as gifted. So, of course, they recommend, you know, better schools, private schools that he can go to, where he'll get the attention that's going to, foster his intelligence to help him become, smarter and better at life. Because Detroit public schools, if he stays in there, he's just going to end up a crack dealing gang member.
No doubt. And I like how this movie doesn't waste any time. For some reason, there was a lot of jokes about this, but this movie also, in this scene, Joe also makes a crack about, he's like, what do you need all that money for? The sex change going through soon? And did you notice that there was a lot of like jokes about trans people? I'm not saying they were all like horribly like terrible, the horrible jokes, like the 80s style jokes, but there was just a lot of jokes about cross-dressing and
yeah, and it was actually at this point where even I knew it was coming up because I'd heard about this movie years before.
Yeah.
And everything. So I knew what was heading my way. But when we started in with the shrill harpy of an ex-wife, the poor downtrodden white guy who just can't catch a break. And then of course, what's coming, and then of course the trans jokes as well. I'm like, this is where I noted this would have been an NBC sitcom in the 80s.
Yeah.
It with just like, I mean, the stuff that people would have been like, yep, that's fine, go ahead, we'll greenlight it, you'll at least get a season out of it.
Guys, everyone thinks Bronson Pinchot's hilarious. I'm not changing a word.
So yeah,
there's a reference for you kids.
Yeah, Perfect Strangers. Look it up, kids. You'll do yourself a favor. It went on a bit long. Once they move into the house, just stop watching the show.
Just don't watch that one where it's like him and John Larroquette and someone else, and they're like detectives. That movie fucking sucks.
Second Sight.
Yeah.
Brutal.
Yeah.
I've seen it a couple of times.
Yeah.
But that's because I liked Bronson Pinchot and John Larroquette. So.
Hey, he's great in Beverly Hills Cop, so there you
go. Anyways, so now he understands that, he's got to pay this. He's got to come up with the money for this tuition for this private school that, his wife wants to send their son to. So he starts looking, he's pounding the pavement. He's got to find another job, something that pays better than the minimum wage, I'm assuming, and tips that he makes as a bartender. Even though he likes his bartender job, he goes out of his way to say that he likes that gig. But so he sees an ad for, they see an ad for a radio host. I think it was Rachel actually brings it to his attention.
Yeah, she brings him flowers for his
because of all the great advice that he gave. Yeah.
Oh yeah, just lit up her life.
Yeah.
And she gives him that advertisement, like you said earlier. It does say women and minorities encouraged to apply. And I guess now he can just share his dime store advice with anyone who will listen.
Okay, so they have that exchange. So this is what he's kind of going to do. And then they show him bringing his son back to the ex-wife. Did he take his kid to work with him? Like at the bar?
Yeah. It was bring your kid to work day.
Bring your kid to work day. Had him slinging suds and everything.
Yeah. Had him like making cocktails and stuff.
It's a weird, disjointed scene, but
yeah, they should have had a scene where CPS showed up.
Of course, it's that scene is just meant to drive him because like it's gonna be to show how much he loves his son and
Yeah.
why he wants to get this gig. And then Rachel helps him kind of set up this an audition tape or audio
Mm.
file.
And this scene is 25 minutes long.
It is, but I mean, it's again, it's not the worst sin in the movie because they do a fake call where he gives advice and there's supposed to be some kind of like rapport starting to develop between these two, and then of course he sends it off, and I'm thinking, okay, so I know what's coming my way. Is she gonna be complicit in his shenanigans? Stay tuned. He doesn't get the gig. He doesn't get the job. They're like, thanks, but no thanks, PFO. And he's like, damn. And then,
Well, actually, he's like, whatever.
yeah.
He
And
reacts to it very nonchalantly.
and it's funny because when they did the tape or the audition, he felt like it was forced. He wasn't. He didn't want to sound like an asshole. To which I wrote, too late, too late. Little did
Yeah.
I know. Little did I know that it was going to get much worse.
He's like talking about how like he's like, I don't want to be a sellout. I'm like, dude, you're a fucking bartender who's gonna have a radio show where you give advice. Like, get over yourself.
And so like like the next day he's up and he's watching apparently Neil Breen's talk show because
It's so
it's the worst.
shitty and green screen and low budget. I'm like, you couldn't make a half decent thing of just two people sitting on a couch yelling at each other or something. Like,
Yeah, and of course it's daytime television, and it's two black women just verbally duking it out
yeah, just
on,
two stereotypes.
and this is where he gets the idea. Oh, if I put on a fake black scent, for lack of a better term, I might get this gig. And so he records like apparently acres of audition using this Loqueesha voice. And it was at this point, even before he sent this thing off, I mean, this is what he's doing. I'm like, this movie, if there's things in it that, yeah, they're bad, but there are things in it that if could have been tweaked, it would not have had the backlash that it did. If he hadn't done this where he was pretending to be a black woman, maybe if he'd done it where he was doing more of like a Dr. Phil or a Lindsey Graham, that fake Southern man voice, and it's still not a good movie, but you get rid of like easily 90% of the backlash that came with this movie.
You get rid of the fact that he's not doing an you make it so that he's not doing an impression of someone with different skin color.
Right. Like when if he was like, he's like, my Mima, she says to me, she said, you need to get yourself down to the church. Doing a Southern man's voice. It's a Southern man impersonation. White dude, Southern guy, probably Baptist. Not going to get me in any trouble. None whatsoever.
Not oppressed at all.
Right.
Either.
Make that the premise of your movie. Fine. If he's supposed to be an old guy, you can still work in that whole idea where he can't be seen because he has to be an old guy.
I would have even taken it if he was just supposed to be a woman. Like a white woman. If he was pretending to just be a woman.
Like he's pretending to be Laura Ingraham.
Yeah, sure. No, but just like, it would have been far less offensive than this, because the biggest thing is not solely the fact that he's doing a woman's voice. He's doing a black woman's voice. He's appropriating another culture.
He's appropriating another culture while leaning into the misogyny.
Right. Like if the joke had been that he was just doing a white woman's voice and that it was so over the top and dumb, then it's like, okay, whatever. At least the movie knows that this is a stupid idea and we're kind of rolling with it. But no, this movie makes us believe that everybody on the fucking planet thinks that this is a real black woman on the air.
Yeah. And I know I said it at the first of it, and I'm probably going to mention it again later in the episode, but this is essentially the same premise as Straight Talk with Dolly Parton, James Woods, without the racism. Dolly Parton pretends to have credentials that she doesn't have, but gets a gig as an advice radio, a call-in radio host giving advice, pretending to be a doctor, and then she gets found out as a fraud. Okay, it's got some good funny beats to it. There's some dramatic stuff where she learns that lying is wrong, and it's a fun little kind of forgettable. I think it was a '90s movie. Nowhere's near as problematic as this thing.
No, and I'm sure Dolly Parton would know better to not approach anything like
she's
this.
So we're up to 7 people now. We're up to 7 people now. So we've got Bob Ross, Tom Hanks,
You're right. You forgot Dolly.
Frat Dolly, we got Weird Al Yankovic, Mr. Rogers,
Robert Blake.
Jesus Christ. Phil Spector. Anyhow,
Gene Simmons.
let's move on.
Okay.
Okay. So
iPhone wants no part of this movie.
No.
Did you notice that weird edit?
No.
You did. Oh my God. So after this whole thing where he watches that low budget
I was
TV
too busy
show,
saying sorry to Patty for this because she watched it with me.
this is crazy. After he does that though, he's talking to his boss, who we meet at this point in the movie
Yes.
for some stupid reason, and she says, "Oh, you got a smartphone." It's edited so badly that you could see they're mouthing iPhone,
Oh,
but they
okay.
don't say iPhone. And then he's like, "You don't seem like a guy who would ever get a smartphone." But what's even weirder is that later in the movie, someone says iPhone. So I'm like, wait, what? What? Why did you do that?
Just missed that one in post, I guess.
It happened. I think there was a couple times after that someone said iPhone, and I was like, wait, did you start editing it, realized you didn't need to, and then didn't bother to go back to fix what you did? God damn, that is some shoddy editing.
He does find out he got the radio an invite for a radio interview, a further interview, because they show. I don't know why they didn't show this before they showed this, but then we show at the station the father son combo who are like running the radio station are absolutely boffo over Loqueesha.
Oh yeah, and she is fucking hilarious, Nathan.
And she's brilliant.
Oh
Yeah.
And definitely an African American woman.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Right.
And these two are a couple of Abbott and Costellos, I'd say. They're pretty fucking hilarious.
Do we get another scene with him and his son?
We get a scene in the bar where there's there's an old guy there who is doing the worst drunk acting I've ever seen.
Mm.
And I noted that Joe is a bad bartender because he keeps serving that guy alcohol and he looks like he's about to pass out.
Not before he gives some solid advice to an elementary school kid.
Oh,
I can't remember what the advice is. I just noted that. I'm assuming the drunk guy was probably something like "avoid the clap, kid" or something like that. Because again, why is this kid in a bar? I mean, I understand his dad works there, but you don't sit him out front with the patrons to talk to them.
He tells him to wait outside until his daddy's done work.
Yeah.
Go snack on some bar nuts and I'll come back when I'm done.
Yeah. So he has a phone interview.
Yes.
So that this saves from him being exposed right away because he responded to them saying that he couldn't come in for an actual interview because he had like agoraphobia or she has agoraphobia.
He calls it xenophobia.
Yeah, because she can't get the words right. I mean,
because she's different from him.
Right.
That's the thing. He also makes her like really dumb too. So it's like even more offensive on that level.
It's one of those things where it's like, I have to make her sound salt of the earth so she can't be too smart. Fucking terrible.
But she has to sound like the world's biggest stereotype.
Yes. And
otherwise, how will people know that he's doing a black voice? So yeah, he has the radio. He has the call. They offer him $500 a month.
and he tries to he wants to more because obviously he's doing this to pay for the tuition. Don't forget, he's
Yeah.
doing this for altruistic reasons.
So it's
All the
fine then.
terrible stuff that he's doing it for a good reason. So he's got to figure out how to get this done so that he can't do the show remotely. But he's managed to work into the clauses of the contract for Loqueesha that everybody in the building has to be out
Mhm.
because he's gonna be doing like 11 till 2. That's gonna be his time slot.
They give him a 3-hour time slot upon never meeting him
Right.
and hiring him on the phone, and he starts in 1 week.
Yeah.
That's
With
crazy.
with no previous radio experience whatsoever.
That's
And
insane.
I guess this station must be in some dire constraints because not only do they give him they give her 3-hour slot with no radio experience and a bunch of riders saying that everybody's got to be out of the building. I'm going to bring in my own engineer. She's basically calling the shots with this.
Mhm.
And we come to find out it's not a talk radio station because the show that is being replaced is Metal at Midnight. Like it's a heavy. You're switching formats from your regular daily music format. Your last 3 hours of your radio broadcast for the day is shifted over to talk radio. I don't think that's a thing that's done.
That's not. No, you don't just you change the show. Like Howard Stern could change to like, I don't know, some other shock jock, but you don't go from like you don't go from like metal in the morning like in this movie to fucking Opie and Anthony now. you know?
Yeah, he's got to get his engineer.
He's got to get his
And
engineer, and this is another very insulting part of the movie in that, of course, Nathan, of course, he has to have a black friend because this character exists so that we are led to believe that what he's doing is okay.
when we did Paranormal Activity Next of Kin, and we made that joke about sound guy Chris, and I made the joke about how, hey, if Brent says it's okay, it's okay. That was a bit. I don't really believe that sort of thing. Okay, this movie plays this off like that's a thing. That's legit. If you have if you want to do something that like this, like Joe is doing, if you have a black friend who is willing to go along with your shenanigans, then it's perfectly acceptable.
And Joe tells his friend named Marcus that what he's doing, and he eventually explains what he's doing. And the least believable part of this entire movie is that Marcus is not like, fuck you, dude, go to hell. If you don't leave, I think I'm going to beat the shit out of you. No, he says, haha, that's hilarious. That's crazy. Are you like a transgender, transracial, cross-cultural dresser?
I'll give you free drinks for life. I'm in.
Yeah, not going to happen though. It wouldn't have even gotten to that point because as soon as he would have explained that to Marcus, Marcus would have been like, fuck you.
And when Marcus started throwing out the transgender, transsexual, transracial, cross-dressing, I was like, this movie has crossed over into full-blown hate crime.
Oh yeah, I think we're on the list.
Yeah. We're oof. Yep.
I'm just worried about what Tubi's going to recommend to me now.
Oh, I gotta thank you. I gotta remove that from my watch history.
Yeah,
Otherwise,
me
they're gonna I'm like, for some reason, Soul Man shows up on fucking Tubi. It's like, here, check this out.
Birth of a Nation.
Fuck off. All right. So he explains to Marcus that what they're doing is not a crime. And it's also it not really a crime, and it's also not kind of like even just moralistically a crime. It's theater.
It's theater. I feel
You
like
know
that's
what? So were minstrel shows, and people don't do those anymore. So
That's
that
right.
fucking explanation is out the window.
I was going to say that's how D.W. Griffith defended Birth of a Nation. It's theater. Also, I'm super racist. And Marcus, they make sure to get shots of Marcus just being so impressed with his voice. as a black woman.
I had a
And
hard time looking at the screen for a lot of it when he was when he was being Loqueesha, like full on. I was like, I had a hard time like looking directly at the screen. I
it was
felt ashamed.
so uncomfortable. And like, can you imagine, like, listen, people need money, people got to eat. I don't blame anyone but Jeremy Saville for this movie, but can you imagine being the actor playing Marcus, just watching this happen in front of you?
He's defended this.
The actor?
The actor has defended it.
Oh,
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah, he's defended it under the saying is like, watch it, judge it for yourself. It's, you can be offended by it, but also, don't just dismiss it out of hand and be offended by it for its existence. Actually, give me a second. I will get the quote. One moment. You give your what tell Marcus. Tell him what you're thinking.
Marcus,
While I'm looking.
we watched it. We gave it our attention, and it's still shitty. So there you go.
Yeah.
I'll keep going. You let me know the quote. I'm gonna keep us going here because
Okay.
we show all this footage now, this montage footage, because Loqueesha's on the air, and people are calling, people are enjoying the hell out of Loqueesha. She is the biggest thing in radio. And then we get to quite possibly my least favorite scene in the entire movie is when this like vaguely racist white guy calls in and he's mad about losing his job and he's like getting upset. And Loqueesha does this whole thing where she's like, oh, you're not mad at me for being a successful black woman. You're mad at yourself for, how long have you been unemployed? 9 months, I bet. Yeah. So you're pregnant. You're pregnant with yourself, not having a job and blah, blah, blah. And it's supposed to be this like moment, this dramatic moment where he's talking about racism and bigotry and stuff. And I'm like, but you don't get to do this. You can't say you're just like upset about this proud black woman who has her own job and everything, but when you're a white guy doing the voice.
Yeah.
Like, I just wanted to put a mirror up in front of him and be like, can you not fucking see what's going on?
So Dwayne Perkins, that's the fella. He
What's his
says
name?
Dwayne Perkins.
Okay. Anthony's
And
brother.
I that'd be a trip. One of his kids, maybe. He says this is a comedy about a guy who does the wrong thing for the right reasons, and the movie really gets into all of it more than the trailer does. I think you have to withhold judgment until you see the movie, but again, making a mockery wasn't my intention. Because he got called out for being in this movie, which is,
Yeah.
this movie.
Yeah. Okay, well, I mean, look, I'm not in a position to comment on anything that he said, but I will say that this movie is the worst.
And I know it's gonna have people who will kind of defend it, saying, "Oh, don't be so easily offended." I'm not easily offended. This movie offends me though.
Well, it's like, too, just because I watch something and I'm not personally offended, I can recognize that it's offensive.
Yes.
There's a difference. He doesn't have to just offend you as a middle class, whatever you are, white guy, upper class, lower class, whatever. But you can't just say that this movie is not offensive. Like, I'm sorry.
So not only does he have that exchange with the other guy where he's pretending to be a black woman, saying that he's a proud black woman.
Mm-hmm.
He also does some sex worker shaming as well. And then when the whole thing's all said and done, he's had his whole night dispensing advice. Marcus says, "Well done," to which I noted, "Nope." Nope.
Yeah, he's just overwhelmed at how well he handled it. His debut radio show a week after being hired for 3 hours. Again, that's crazy.
Did you notice? Did you take note that the unemployed white guy looked like a low rent Rob Corddry?
No, I could see that though.
Yeah.
I just thought he was going to be a white supremacist, which they kind of got close to that. But then again, you can't make this point about racism with a literal white guy saying those lines. It doesn't make sense. You're contradicting yourself.
So Loqueesha is she's blowing up in the media.
Oh.
So much so that Jim, who apparently doesn't have a makeup artist helping him out from Channel 6, is talking about him. The poor guy that they had as Jim from Channel 6 had they had no makeup, no money for makeup for this poor guy, and the green screen that they use with him is fucking Neil Breen levels.
Oh yeah, and there's some really bad stuff like that throughout the movie. Like there's a part where you see Loqueesha advertisement on a bus. You can see the advertisement wavering around while the bus is going by. It's like, oh my god.
And this was actually, I hadn't been noting it. I know I said it earlier in the episode, but this was the first time when I found out or had made a conscious note that this is in Detroit.
Oh, I didn't even.
Yeah, because they do say that it's in. They come out that it's in Detroit, and to which I'm thinking, oh my god, if when this comes to light, this guy's gonna be killed.
Yeah.
He's just gonna be murdered in the street.
Maybe they're just doing that to show how brave Joe is for doing this in Detroit.
Oh, god. So
Loqueesha's,
because
sorry.
I was gonna say, because the show is doing so well, and this is an actual line from the fucking movie, doing so well in Radio Ghetto, they're gonna bump him.
How did they not see that?
Yeah, they're gonna bump her into drive time, which is like, that's the sweet spot for commercial radio.
Yeah.
That's the time everybody, like, morning drive time or afternoon drive time. Afternoon drive time, as far as your radio hosts go, is the golden spot, because you're working in the afternoon. You don't have to get up super early in the morning. Everybody's listening because they're stuck in their car on the drive home.
Mhm.
It's a plum gig, and now they're like, okay, well, we gotta, the riders that you were requesting before, but everybody leaving the station, that's not going to be a thing now. So now what they've got to do, oh god.
But before what they do here, Marcus for a second suggests that he dress up like Loqueesha, and I was like, fuck off, movie. Don't even think about it. Even think about it.
They thought about it, and then they passed on it, because the next thing they do is they hold auditions for someone to pose as Loqueesha for public appearances and for going into and out of the radio show, and Joe is going to pose as part of her security or entourage or something like that. That's the story that they're going to use to get him in and out of the radio show, so he can perpetrate his hate crime.
And the audition montage does have a hilarious joke, though, because there's a guy with a beard, but he has a dress on. Do you get it?
I get it.
Okay. Because that guy's wearing a dress. That's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
That's, I don't know, the fourth joke about cross-dressing in this movie. And then some woman is like a theatrical actor. And then we get Renee, the one who gets the job, and they give her, like, I mean, I'm just gonna say it, no offense to the person playing her, but they turn her into like a mammy character. Like, she is like Marlon Wayans in Dungeons and Dragons.
She, like, to saying things like, y'all ain't making no porno, are you?
Yeah.
Yeah, things like that.
She's just very, like, again, she's what I imagine her dialogue, and the way she's told to deliver it is what I imagine Jeremy Saville is like. I know what black people sound like. Like, it's like, as if Marlon Wayans' character in Dungeons and Dragons was like a minstrel show at times, and that's what I think this is kind of like.
Yeah.
It's real bad, guys.
It's real bad. She does have one line about Cinderella, and I think it's like something to the effect that she's like, that's the cinder in Cinderella, because that's, get it, because she's black. Cinder's black.
Right.
It's fucking bad. So bad. It's so bad.
That's a real good line, yeah.
And there's a point where she, as Loqueesha she's doing public appearances and things like that, and she's talking, and she doesn't sound a thing like Joe sounds.
And I think what the movie is saying is, and this is what the movie is saying, they all sound alike.
Oh my god.
I mean, they have to be, because everyone hears her.
Only thing I can think of, because you hear her talk. I was like, okay, yes, she's got an attitude. She has neck in her voice, as folks will say, but she doesn't sound like Ray's Loqueesha voice.
Ray?
Sorry, Joe.
Yeah.
Joe.
Joe.
You know what? I know why I said Ray, because Jeremy Saville is what you get if you order Ray Romano off of AliExpress.
Yeah. Yeah, he's got the comic timing of a I don't know, Christopher Plummer.
There's a scene where during the montage where I think they're supposed to be trying to show that, you know, she is beloved by all and mobbed wherever she goes. They managed to hire one extra to mob her.
I laughed.
That got a laugh out of me. I know it's not an intentional laugh, but that got a laugh out of me.
I laughed so hard at that, Nathan. And I made Mariah watch this with me, by the way. I was like, I'm not watching this by myself. And I looked at her when that happened, and I was like, wow. I wonder what the budget was on this movie. They hired one extra. It's crazy too, because they show all this whole montage of people being interviewed on TV. Like, they couldn't just grab a bunch of those people.
No, right?
You had extras. You clearly had or like not extras, but like small supporting roles, and you couldn't throw any of those people into the shot. Like, this movie is like Wolfie T said at the beginning, it's super offensive, and it's also just super inept as a movie.
Yeah.
But anyway, Joe gives his ex all the money for school in cash,
because, you know, and he in like a envelope, because he thought it'd be fun to do that.
Yeah.
Tells her that he stole it, and then says, "No, I didn't steal it." This is the height of comedy for this movie.
There's no jokes.
No.
He just says stuff
Just
with a goofy voice.
He delivers everything in a super awkward way, and she's a shrill harpy.
And I think he read a book about acting that says every word you say, your face better be in a different position each time.
He mugs a bit. Yes, he mugs a bit.
Oh, just a tad.
Yeah.
Rachel then calls into the show later on.
Oh, and he's just lies, straight out lies to her, and sells himself like he's the best thing, better than 10 Super Bowls.
Well, because she's like talking about how she thinks she has a crush on Joe, which is like, okay, because he gave her that shitty advice, and she actually left her boyfriend and everything. And yeah, Joe as Loqueesha is like, well, you should tell him. I'm not doing the voice. She said you should tell him, and go after that. And then she does, and the whole thing's gross because like you said, it's Joe telling her to go for it. For him.
And this actually, okay. I thought there was actually going to be some sort of redemptive quality or something that was going to kind of turn this thing around, where he gets kind of a comeuppance, because he goes to drinks at her place, and they're getting hot and heavy and everything like that. And he can't control the Loqueesha voice. He keeps, it's like Loqueesha Tourette's he has. And I'm like, oh my God, is he going to like develop like a split personality? And is Loqueesha going to like take over his body, and it's going to be like, you get what you deserve, and he ends up in like, the nut house or something like that. Like, that's what's going to happen. And it's not what happens, but for a moment I had hope that there was going to be some legitimate comeuppance, that he was going to develop like a severe crippling mental disease because of how shitty he is.
Nope. And we'll even get later to a moment where it seems like there's a lesson learned, and there actually isn't. But I'll wait for that.
Yeah. He at one point, I think during this exchange, says that he's a black woman trapped in a white man's body, and I face palmed so hard I woke up an hour later and had to find out, wind it back to where I started. Gave myself a concussion.
So this was the scene you because you had sent me a text and said, Brendan, I literally just face palmed. So is this the scene?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I the hyperbole of being knocked out for an hour, yes, but I did literally face palm. Like I had to pause because I wasn't watching anything. I was just sitting there, head in hand, reflecting on the life choices that I have made that had brought me to that exact point in time.
And then remember when he says when he makes that remark about being a black woman in a white man's body, Rachel says, "Are you transgender?" The joke number 12? I don't know.
Like that. Yeah.
And now
Then, of course, he has to skedaddle away from Rachel.
Yeah, and he gets pulled over by a cop, and he's doing the same thing with the cop. Both voices.
The cop is a black officer, so I feel that him doing this would not go the way that it did in this movie.
No, and especially when the cop thinks he does he's like, well, it's a pretty good impression of Loqueesha. I don't think a black person would say that. They'd be like, you should not do that impression.
Sir, step out of the car, please.
Yeah. Like, listen, I'm not. If I was putting together an impression reel, even if I could pull it off, one of them would not be Chris Rock. I'm just sorry, you just don't do it.
There's cards on the table. There are some people that you can do to get away with, but not because of that. James Earl Jones.
Sure, because he's got a deep voice.
Yeah, very deep voice. Right, yeah. Exactly. You can do that. Perfectly fine. Kevin Hart? No.
Mm-mm.
Chris Tucker? Mm-mm.
No.
Ice Cube? Nope.
Does he have another podcast on your ass if you do?
Yeah. Sidney Poitier? Yes. So, I mean, there's a line, okay? And you need to know where it is.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is enough with the Regina Hall impressions, white guys.
So, anyhow, okay.
He goes to his mom.
Yes, he goes to his mom. And
she also asks if he's transgender or gay.
Yes. And also expresses a lot of deep disappointment in him.
Which is fair.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I noted. That's fair. And probably something his real mom said to him.
Yeah.
He just included it in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
It turns out she is a huge fan of Loqueesha.
Of course,
been listening to her because everybody is. Everybody loves Loqueesha. That's
got Loqueesha mania.
It's running wild, brother.
What you gonna do? I'm gonna get arrested for a hate crime, I think.
Yeah, right. God damn it. Where are we at? He went to his mom. Okay, so I was unaware that they had full on explained to her, her by meeting her, the lady who playing Loqueesha for public appearances, what was going on. I had thought they were trying to keep it under wraps as much as possible, and were just saying maybe they told her that, Loqueesha is a very private person, and you're not going to get to see her, but we need you to kind of pretend to be her so that people can see her, so she can keep being a radio host and not be forced to be into a situation where she has to be out amongst people because she has agoraphobia and all that. No. Apparently they let her in. They let her right into kayfabe.
Yeah.
Because when I saw the second person in the booth, I'm like, why is there a second person in the booth?
I laughed so hard when you could just see her sitting there, and I was like,
yeah.
But this should be the person in the booth, though.
Right. This part is extra fucked because he calls himself
Okay, so this is the whole thing where he thinks he has multiple personalities. Loqueesha's becoming a part of his personality, and yes, he calls into his own station. Kind of, he just has 2 microphones, which, by the way, would not sound like someone on the phone at a
No.
radio station. But he's Joe, and he's also Loqueesha, and he just talks back and forth. And this scene is interminable.
Mm-hmm.
It just goes on for so long that I checked the timer. I was like, surely this was the climactic scene. There's how much left? Good God.
And then after we have this whole bit of self-serving, him essentially rationalizing away what he's doing so he doesn't have to feel bad about it.
It's nuts.
Yeah. A jumper calls in, like someone who's going to kill themselves, and he says, "Go ahead and do it." The fuck kind of advice is that?
Yeah. Yeah, he says his whole thing is like, go ahead and do it because I know you're just looking for attention. And what you really need to do,
1,000% the wrong thing to say to anybody in that situation.
Yeah, you don't say that to someone who's literally on the edge of whatever they're jumping off of.
No.
Like, and then eventually he unpacks the advice to get to the real advice, but I'm like, no, you just started out saying do it. That's the end of it. Nobody would ever fucking do that. And I feel like the movie should have taken a turn there where she did it and then Joe got arrested.
Well, and that's the funny thing is, and spoiler alert for a movie that came out in the 90s starring Dolly Parton and James Woods, she does something similar. She doesn't tell a jumper to jump, but she gives this advice to this guy who calls in, doesn't give the full story, says that he's kind of fed up with his wife, and she gives this advice, well, she's weighing you down and you should just leave her. Mm-hmm. And then she comes to find out later in the movie that he did that, but she was a good wife. And not only did he leave her, but he left their 2 or 3 kids behind and took off with all their money.
Oh, okay.
So she feels super bad about it because she didn't know the whole story, but she just shot from the hip, and all that. So there you go.
But that would involve this movie admitting for 5 minutes that Joe made a mistake. Yeah.
Other than saying, I'm doing the wrong thing for the right reasons. Did you notice how it was pitch dark out when the jumper calls? I thought he got moved to drive time.
Yes, I noticed that too. And then there were sometimes it was during the day, sometimes it was at night, sometimes it looked like it was at the breaking hour of dawn. And this was all after he got the 3 to 6 time slot or 12 to 3 or whatever it was. And I was like, yeah, what's going on? This is just such a lazy fucking movie. There's no attention to detail whatsoever. This guy is a terrible filmmaker.
It gets an email from Oprah, though.
Loqueesha gets an email from Oprah, and it literally said, by the way, when he shows his email inbox, all the other emails are blurred out, and I feel like he just took a video of his actual email. It's like, why didn't you just create an email for the movie?
Yeah. I mean, you were able to create the ad to float on the bus as it drove by.
Right. And then the email, by the way, from Oprah just says, I want you to have your own television channel on my network. Thanks, Oprah. By the way, that's a scam email.
Absolutely.
There's no way that's real. It comes from Oprah herself.
Yeah, not directly from anybody who is going to contact you. It's not going to be from that celebrity. It's going to be through their representation.
Oh,
she's calling me now, actually. Hello. Oh, well, yes, Mrs. Winfrey. Yes, Mrs. Winfrey. Yes, it's terrible, isn't it? Okay. I will absolutely send out the message. Thank you so much. It's weird. We were just saying that it would be through your Oh, it's so important that you have to call directly. Okay,
say hi to Stedman for me.
Brendan says love to Stedman, and same from me and Gail. Okay. All right. You too. Thank you very much for calling, Ms. Winfrey. Okay, bye. She says, Jeremy Saville, keep my fucking name out of your fucking mouth.
Sounds about right.
So, There we go.
Yeah. So after this, this is a big plot point too, because Joe is like, I can't do this. Like, then they'll see that it's me. Like, they'll give it away. I can't actually be on television. And Renee, the one he's got as a stand-in, is very upset. And she starts saying like, no, you need to do it or I'll do it. And he's like, and he looks at her and he says, but you're not Loqueesha. And I'm like, neither are you.
But she's apparently she feels like she's got him over the barrel because if he doesn't go along with this, then she's gonna tell everybody
that he's Loqueesha.
Yeah.
But she does actually. This is the one line, I think one of two lines, where somebody actually makes reference to him co-opting gender and an entire culture. But his response is, "No, I'm not. I'm just doing a silly voice."
It's theater, remember?
And Renee is like, that's it. I want 70% of everything, or I'm going to tell. And he says, of course not. But then when he sees how happy his son is with his school, we got a deal, Renee. I feel so bad for this kid, by the way. He's clearly not an actor, because we get this scene where hit with Joe and his son, and it's like this really forced acting. But I feel so bad for this kid, because in 10 years, he's going to be like,
if the kid is still, if he's still reaching to be an actor, I guarantee you he's going to take a stage name.
Oh yeah, because people are gonna be like, "Wait, weren't you in that?" Nope,
that's not me.
Not me. I wonder if that's Jeremy Saville's real kid. I'm gonna find out.
You think that if that's the case, CPS should have been called in on this, like we mentioned earlier.
Right.
All right. So
good news. It's not his real kid.
That is some good news. We're rounding. We're coming to the end.
Yeah, we're getting close. What do we got here? So, so he agrees to the deal, and then he has a really awkward conversation with his son, where his son is like, I mean, I like it that now that you have more money, because we do cool things now. And I'm like, well, I don't think that's the lesson you should be learning.
And he manages. Okay, so he goes in. He's gonna renege on this deal, even though he's told her they have a deal. He's finally now grown a conscience of some sort, a little bit maybe, and she's gonna Loqueesha's. This is her last show, and at the end of it, he's gonna walk out. It'll be all done with, and he walks out. But he has this exchange with Renee, and she just kind of carries on and walks on like she's been Loqueesha the whole time. To which I noted, he doesn't even get exposed for who he is, and she's just gonna carry on the mantle. And then I looked and I saw there was a fair bit of time. I was like, okay, all right, there's still some time for some comeuppance here.
I had the same thought. I was like, are you fucking kidding me? But yeah, look, Renee gets caught coming out of the dressing room, and then the producers see her, the radio guys, and they think, of course, that it's Loqueesha, because this movie, again, tells us that all black women sound exactly the same. And she's all like, I want all these demands. I guess she's got all these demands, and they're like, what's going on? And so she starts taking over, and she's just like,
because the show is supposed to be going national at this point.
Yeah, it's going national. But you know what, Nathan? She is no Loqueesha. Joe is the only Loqueesha for people, because she is tanking. She is rude. She is mean.
And all the callers that call in, they're all Jeremy Saville. They gotta be, like, because there's a point where people are calling him like, that's him doing another voice.
Is it?
I'm not going back to watch it, but there was a time where I was like, I'm pretty sure that's Jeremy Saville. I'm pretty sure that's him just doing another voice.
I mean, he is a master of accents, as we know.
Yeah.
So so she's her ratings go way down, and the radio guys are like, you got to step up your game. And she's like, listen, just let me take a couple weeks off. And then she tries to convince Joe to actually come back as Loqueesha, and says the line, "You are a better black woman than I am."
Oh my God. She did not get paid enough to sell her soul to say that.
What nerve to write that?
And what bills did she have to pay to agree to say that?
That's just yeah. It was a lot. And then he has the gall to continue this scene by saying, "This thing was never about race or gender. It's about truth and speaking from the heart." No, it was about race or gender because you made it about race or gender.
And they, at this point, they're talking about how like this big reveal is going to be some huge, Shyamalan twist, and someone references The Sixth Sense, to which I write, if this is anything, it's The Village or Lady in the Water.
Well, yeah. How dare you sully the names of those far better movies? Because in this, do you not remember what he says about M. Night Shyamalan in this movie? Because they say it's that when Joe comes in and tells the radio guys that he's been Loqueesha the whole time, they say it's a twist like one of those M. Night Shyamalan movies, and he says, "Oh, then The Sixth Sense," because the other ones are predictable and stupid. But there's no joke. He literally just, the line's just there to like trash like M. Night Shyamalan movies, and I'm like, M. Night Shyamalan's worst movie is 1,000,000 times better than this.
Exactly.
I would rather fucking watch The Last Airbender twice than watch this one time again. So I'll take a page from you, Nathan. Take M. Night Shyamalan's name out your fucking mouth.
Oh, okay.
So what's the big solution to this? Surely the people are going to hate him if they know Joe is Loqueesha.
Oh my God. So he decides to come clean and go full Kaufman. He's like, I'm going to do a show and I'm going to come clean. I'm going to say who I am. And I'm going to do like a Twitter poll, I guess, for lack of a better term.
Sure.
And people are going to call in and give their thoughts, whether to can the show entirely, whether or not he should continue it as Loqueesha, or if he should keep going as Joe. Those are your three options. The Joe Show. So those are your three options. Apparently, Tar and Feather was not put on there because I feel, had that been on there, 100% Tar and Feather this guy.
Apparently, Crucify in the Streets wasn't one of the options.
And he even has like the fucking audacity to be like, in all of this, I found me. Ugh.
Because he has this moment. This is the other moment in the movie that I think, aside from the part where he explains racism to another white guy, this is the part of the movie that made me mad, maybe almost as much as that scene. Is he is confronted by Rachel because she finds out that he's said all this or whatever, and she tells him exactly what he's doing wrong. And, he does that thing, like you said. I think this is the scene where he's like, I learned about myself. And she even says, like, do you think this is how black women sound? Like, do they all sound the same? Do they all sound like Loqueesha? And I'm like, oh my God, he didn't write this part. But then he immediately says, they didn't want the real me. They didn't want the white guy, Joe. They wanted Loqueesha. Like, what am I going to do with that? I'm like, that poor fucking white guy. And then the biggest thing, and I'm sorry I'm going to get to the ending, but this is part of my rant here. But the biggest problem is that she seemingly shows him what he did was wrong. And the vote comes in, and Joe and Loqueesha both get 40% of the vote, 20% to Canem, which is the biggest fiction I've ever heard. And so what does he do? He continues doing the fucking voice.
Right, because he's gonna do one day it's gonna be Joe's show, the other day it's gonna be Loqueesha. And I noted, fuck off with your tie.
Like, that's the ending? He doesn't
the ending is him dedicating this to his mom and dad.
Which I'm sure he was disowned 5 minutes after.
So
I didn't
Zero comeuppance. Zero.
Yes, at the very fucking least, have him learn that this was not okay to do. No, he fucking continues doing it. This is just what he's going to do now. And they're like, listen, it's fine because I'll just tell them it's just a performance. No, it's not.
I can't. I had no words.
Ugh.
So that's Loqueesha. One moment.
Yeah, fucking just ruin that thing.
And into the vat of acid it goes. So, Brendan,
Yeah.
what's your rating and why is it avoid like the plague?
It's avoid like the plague, because fuck this fucking piece of racist, obnoxious, terrible movie making bullshit. This movie sucked. One of the worst movies we've ever covered. I don't know if it's the worst. I don't think it's the worst, but it's one of the worst. It's definitely in the bottom 5.
Worse than Cheerleader Ninjas?
This made me madder. This did make me madder. You know what? Yes.
Okay.
It's the bottom of the barrel now. Nathan, what about you? Why is your answer avoid like the plague?
For everything that you said, it's and also on top of that, lazy. Super fucking lazy. Dolly Parton did it better and with way more grace and way less racism.
Is this worse than Human Centipede 2?
No, but it is worse than Postal.
Ooh, so it's the second worst movie for you.
It's the second worst movie for me.
Okay.
Human Centipede 2 is still the worst just because Human Centipede 2 I feel was approaching Serbian film levels of gore and gross for the sake of gore and gross.
Yeah, and I'm really thinking back now to my comments about Cheerleader Ninjas, but because that movie had some very questionable humor too, but this one was just the worst part about it is that they thought they were making a statement.
Yeah.
And they thought what they were saying was profound. And I think that made me even madder than just the fact that it was him doing a black one's voice. It's the fact that it wasn't just like, this is a stupid movie and it's offensive. No, he thought he was making a fucking statement movie. And fuck you, Jeremy Saville. Fuck yourself. Stick a pole up your ass.
There you go.
That's my rating.
So both of us avoid this movie like the plague, folks. With that being said, we're gonna try to recharge ourselves, pay some bills if any sponsors will still have us, and just maybe take a lap. I'm just gonna maybe do that, take a lap and clear my head, come back, and you guys will come back too. So just stick around, and we'll be right back.
What were they thinking?
HomeSense gives you the freedom to get what you love because you don't have to sacrifice quality for price. Discover great finds for the entire home, like big deals on big mirrors for the entryway, tiny prices on accent furniture, or cast iron pots from just $30. Endless possibilities, perfectly priced, only at HomeSense.
NPR bot engage.
Beep boop ba boop ba 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 bo. We're back.
Yes, we are back, and we've managed to calm our headspace.
Yes, I just downed 6 shots of whiskey.
Bring it back. That's a light order, I would figure. And we are now taking part in the low haiku. Brendan, if you be so kind as to calmly and coolly explain to any of our potentially first-time listeners, and if you are, I'm terribly sorry this was your first episode, what the low haiku is.
Sure. The low haiku is 17 perfect syllables to break down the hate crime that we just spent a little while talking about in disgust.
Okay. And I will let you vent your rage first.
Thank you. Fuck this racist shit. Woe is me. I am white man. Oppressed. So oppressed.
Very good, very good. The sarcasm that it drips with is quite thick.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I went. I think I went a subtler route.
Okay.
But still, defies common sense. This is Republican porn. It is legit trash. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Now, if NPR bot, if you'd be so kind as to take us out.
Beep boop boop bop 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 bop. Oh,
So much easier.
so much easier.
It doesn't hurt anymore. You don't get that burning sensation.
Yeah, after we pee, right?
So we've waxed poetical, and we've vented our rage, and we've
Yes.
taken our shots and taken our laps.
Mhm.
I feel that we should say take our word for it,
Mhm,
and people
mhm,
should
mhm.
just, as we said, avoid it like the plague.
Mm.
But we want to be as fair and absolutely unbalanced, and balanced as possible.
Mhm.
So I'm going to defer to the usually sage advice that we often have for our audience. And what is that sage advice that we often have for our audience, Brendan?
Well, it would be wise to ignore it in this case, but usually that sage advice we have is
Don't take a word for it.
That's right. Absolutely take no, don't take our word for it. Please take our word for
don't
it.
do it, I guess.
Please do. Brendan, I can't imagine anybody legitimately liking this movie, but out of morbid curiosity, what did the critics have to say about this on the tomatoes?
Well, first of all, I'm shocked that this has a critics rating. Because there's only 7 reviews, but you'll be delighted to know that none of them are positive. It's got a big old goose egg, 0%.
Okay. But I said earlier, movies of this ilk will have some, wrong-minded individuals defending it with a, don't get so offended snowflake attitude. So I mean, the audience, if it's 0 for the critics, it's got to be higher, right?
13%.
That restores a bit of my faith in humanity.
But I will tell you, Nathan, that if you like this movie, which no one on the planet
Nope,
does,
did not.
you might also like the following movies: The Dark Below,
Hmm.
Dumbbells, which is the poster is just a lady's butt in like short shorts. Poor Boy, Christmas Inheritance, which okay. And it looks like a Lifetime movie that has a black guy in it, so maybe that's why they put it there. And lastly, Dealing with Idiots. All movies I've never heard of.
Nor have I.
Apparently, Dealing with Idiots has Jeff Garlin, Gina Gershon, Nia Vardalos, Jamie Gertz, Fred Willard, Richard Kind, Carrie
Wow.
Kenny, Bob Odenkirk, Timothy Oliphant, J.B. Smoove, Max Wright, Dave Sheridan.
Wow.
Holy shit. Okay, but very quite rotten. So
Okay.
maybe it's not great.
Okay. Well, we've only got a few critics, so you want to just burn through them?
Sure.
All
Let's
right.
just see here. Well, Joel Golby of Guardian says simply, "I cannot believe this film got made."
Alan Ing of Film Threat writes, there's just no way of defending Loqueesha, and despite the sincere attempts of Saville, the biggest reason to see this film is if you're a fan of car wrecks. He still gave it a 4 out of 10, though.
That's wild. Because again, even if you were like, oh, it's not that offensive, it's still an incompetently made movie.
Yeah.
Frank Ocheng of Flick Feast says, embarrassing and abominable, utterly imbecilic and indigestible, Loqueesha is a rancid stain for all that participated in this flatulent farce.
Okay. Dominic Griffin of the Armchair Auteur writes, it's hot garbage. But that doesn't mean it isn't a fascinating exercise and worth delving deep into for analysis. Still only gave it 1 out of 10 though.
If you want to dive deep into a movie to see how you don't make a movie, sure.
Yeah.
KB of the Decider. By the way, most of these critics are African American, which I think is hilarious that like I just think it's hilarious that they all reviewed this movie and they were like, fuck this. KB says, I'm tired and wouldn't recommend this film to anyone, living or dead.
All right. Well, my last review comes from I'm gonna do the last two guys because they're from the same website. So I'm assuming they have like it's a dueling criticism type thing. Corey Coleman first, and then Martin Thomas, both from Double Toasted. Corey says, "Just do not listen to Jeremy Saville," and Martin Thomas says, "Why would you do something even sort of like this?"
I guess we'll go into the audience reviews. There's not a ton here.
It was about two pages.
Yeah.
We're not gonna burn through all of those, but I certainly do want to make note of a couple of them. That's for sure. But
Well,
you lead us off.
I'm gonna pluck one from Letterboxd in this case.
Oh, okay. Okay.
This is a review posted by Donald J. Trump. It's just Trump, but the U and the M are switched.
Okay.
Loqueesha had exactly 911 reviews, which served as a perfect metaphor for this man-made disaster, until all of that was ruined by a brain aneurysm victim named Hey Guys, It's Max, when he wrote review number 912, and thus another work of cinema joins the elite circle, home to such modern classics as Cuties and Dave Chappelle's The Closer, of media that everyone hates but nobody actually saw. I certainly didn't. 5 stars.
Okay. I am going to counterbalance that with a negative rating. There is a couple of positive ones. Don't worry. I will let you know.
I think most of them are ironic, though.
Daniel S. Writes, as someone who is offended by the current political climate of extremophiles misrepresenting what is means to be overly politically correct, this satire is extremely easy to misinterpret. At least I hope this is satire. Also, your iPhone deal hasn't come through yet, has it? This movie literally misses the point of the information that is trying to parody on so many levels that I believe somebody was extremely intoxicated during all points of production in order to birth this swollen, dead abomination. Never make another film, please. 0.5 stars.
Wow. Okay. I love some of these Letterboxd ones. This one's from Ramage Lover 63, and it says, a movie to rival Joker in its portrayal of the psyche of a deranged lunatic who swirls the downward spiral into the pit of despair and death. A masterpiece. 5 stars.
Okay, well, Austin H. on Rotten Tomatoes wrote, I cannot believe how many bad ratings this movie has gotten over such a small issue. This movie had my sides hurting at how absolutely hilarious it was. Sorry to Not Bother is Loqueesha in reverse roles, and audiences loved it. Loqueesha is an absolute riot, and if people would enjoy it for its comedy and not to be offended by everything, then Loqueesha would easily have received more praise. The acting is wonderful. The jokes hit. I expected it to be funny, but I didn't expect it to be this funny. 9 out of 10. Really great movie. 5 out of stars.
Okay. So much to unpack there.
Okay. Sorry to Not Bother. The reason why people loved it
it's also
is because
called
it's punching up.
It's also not called Sorry Not to Bother.
Yeah, it's Sorry to Bother.
So yeah, sorry to bother you. Again, yeah, exactly. It's punching up because okay, I'm sorry. I've heard this before where someone says, "Well, if they can make fun of a white person, why can't?" That's not how it works.
Yeah.
It's not how it works.
Yeah, you don't get it's not a network looking for equal play for Republicans and Democrats. They're punching up. That's why it's funny.
It's like if Nathan and I were making fun of each other and they only showed Nathan's side. Yeah, that wouldn't be only Nathan did it rather. Yeah, that wouldn't be equal. but this is not the same thing.
Right.
Yeah. And I can't believe he said. I mean, I've never even seen Sorry to Bother You. I want to, but I know that movie's. I've heard that movie's really good. Don't fucking mention that movie in the same review. Okay, let's see. Adam on Letterboxd posts, didn't see the movie, but it looks nice. 5 stars.
No. If you look at the box, no. Anyhow, Andrew S. Or at Rotten Tomatoes writes, I wish I could rate this 0 stars, honestly. This is a horrible film with a director whose head's so far up his ass you'd think he was joking. Sadly, this film is real, and the director really thinks he has a good message in the movie about being yourself. Instead, it's a horribly rushed plot that's taking itself way too seriously. Ultimately, this film is full of racial humor that doesn't remotely work at all. It is as if the director rushed the writing to get this on Amazon Prime. What else can I say? It's a rushed film with a terrible message and some awful special effects with noticeable green screen. 0.5 out of stars.
Okay. This is a long. I'm not reading this whole thing because it's long, but I'm going to pick out certain parts. But this is a review from Joshua Bozeman. As soon as this starts, you're going to know where this is going. So tired of the whiny, offended by everything folks that want to scream racism, sexism, transphobic, etc. at everything in the world. It's a little crazy that someone doing an accent or stereotypical voice of a small segment of a particular race is considered evil in 2019. It's beyond bizarre. Loqueesha isn't classic filmmaking, but it's not perfect, but it is fairly funny. And the message carried throughout the film is a positive one that says it doesn't matter what race or sex a person is. To understand any person, you simply need to do your best to empathize and try to put yourself in that person's shoes, no matter how different they are. Saville is actually pretty funny, and he's definitely charming. His sidekick in the endeavor, Dwayne Perkins, is great as well. From the moment he is introduced and asks if they're about to murder someone, I was laughing. I'm going to skip a bunch of stuff because it's a very long review. Instead of attacking a movie based on a trailer, a movie many of you refuse to even watch, give it a chance. You're literally playing out the message of the movie by refusing to even try to take something in and look at it from a point of view that is more objective. Actually, a really surprisingly good film. Numerous laughs, a charming pair of leads, well shot. That's the craziest part of this review. A fun storyline, and at its heart, a pretty great message that should resonate with most people. Fuck you, dude.
Wow.
What?
To counterbalance that,
Yes, please send us home with something wonderful.
Okay, well, to counterbalance that, it's a real. I got a couple of real quick ones since your last one was a bit. Cora K says extremely racist and poorly written. 0.5 out of stars. Miguel A writes racist AF. ... Nothing following it. 1 out of stars. And someone who I feel they didn't really need to be anonymous because they are 1,000% on point writes offensive, unfunny, a complete waste of time, even though it's only over 90 minutes long. Avoid this movie at all costs. 0.5 out of stars.
There you go. By the way, this is one of the few movies to have under a 1 on Letterboxd.
Wow.
0.9. So I guess we did it, eh? Can we talk about good stuff now?
Oh, please let's.
Okay.
It is time now for the dance sensation that is sweeping the nation. Ladies and gentlemen, it is time for What You Watching, Bud?
What you watching, bud? I don't know what you're watching, bud. I'll tell you so. Do.
Well, if you, for any reason, heard that we were doing this movie and watched it, and you feel as empty and vacant as we do, here's something that I watched that made me feel a lot better, and that's Mariah and I went to go see the Bob's Burgers movie.
Okay.
A lot of fun. again, and this is coming from someone who's not even like a huge fan of the show. I'm not saying I don't like the show. I'm just saying I haven't watched it very much, so I'm not like
I'm
a
a huge fan of the show.
I'm not a huge follower of the show, I guess.
Yeah.
But even that, I mean, it was accessible. You know what I mean? It's there for everyone. I got it. Like it's not hard to catch on to what's going on. But it was really fun. It was really it's really wholesome, really, that show and that movie.
The fun thing about Bob's Burgers is that it's probably one of the best representations of not only a working class family, but also a love and acceptance of parents who have kids that are clearly on the spectrum.
Yeah. Oh no,
And
100%.
they don't bat an eye about how quirky and off that their kids can be, because both Bob and Linda themselves are very quirky and off, and rather than work against that tide, they embrace it, and it is one of the best shows on television because of that. And you know what? I've actually been in anticipation of going to see that movie. I have been rewatching that show. So
Oh.
that's going to be my What You Watching, bud.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, that worked out nicely. I had something else. I'll save it for another episode because I think that if people have been sleeping on that show, they should stop doing that and head on over to Disney Plus and watch all of it.
Yeah, and it's not super comfortable to sleep on a bunch of DVDs anyway.
Right. Get you get rid of those and watch it on Disney Plus.
Get them on Laserdisc.
Sell them to me. I like physical media.
There you go. The Bob's Burgers movie and the show Bob's Burgers. You couldn't do any better than getting the stench of Loqueesha out of your body.
It really sucks that we gave that Rose the best like recommendations for some of the best things on like a show where we covered the worst fucking movie.
I feel like it's necessary though.
Yeah, because now I'm gonna continue on watching Bob's Burgers and it'll make me feel better. That's for sure.
There you go.
And you know how I'm always about like I'm not big on musicals. I'm fine with the music cues and stuff that happen in Bob's Burgers. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of singing in the movie, and I'm totally fine with that.
There's a few in the movie. Well, no, I think you mentioned that animated ones you're more okay with.
Yeah, it's easier to it's when it's like live people in a movie setting. I can even handle live people in a theatrical setting. Like if I go to the theater for a musical, I'm okay with that. It's just as soon as you put it to celluloid, I'm like, nope, get the fuck out of here with that. That's stupid.
So strange. But anyway, there you go. Bob's Burgers and Bob's Burgers movie. Nathan, is Montrose here? Because I'm worried he left already.
He's here. I feel that he's here. He's still here because he wants to promote his stuff, but I feel he's got some things to say. So
okay,
I'll go get him.
I'm gonna leave the room.
Okay. You know, not since DX parodied, quote unquote parodied, the Nation of Domination have I been so utterly incensed and offended by a piece of media. I shudder to be here on this particular episode. I should have just had you rerun an old promo that I did, but I am, if not anything, a professional chimpanzee. Check out Montrose Monkington TV, my YouTube channel. Be friends with me at Montrose Monkington III Esquire and Friends, and tweet at me at Montrose III, that's the number 3RD, on Twitter. Ne'er will you ever hear me say a thing about this movie, and I am a chimpanzee who is all about the inclusion. Thank you! More later.
Thank you, Montrose.
You're welcome. This movie disgusts me.
Not the only one.
There's nothing. I don't think there's anything worse than actual like British disgust.
That's next level disgust for sure.
You've done some stuff.
Well, Nathan, if you want to hear us in happier times, we have other episodes too that you can enjoy.
Like Tank Girl, so much fun.
You can. I think
Monkey
do.
Ball.
Honestly,
Great episode.
Honestly, though, I think people do enjoy hearing our pain, so this is probably one that people will like a lot. So good on ya. But you could check out other episodes of our podcast.
You know what, Wolfie? We don't blame you.
No,
thank you for. You know what? I feel by doing this, I know it was random draw, but I think by doing that, you've actually helped us do a public service, so that people hear this episode, they're gonna be like, "Whoa, those Canadian dudes were super upset and offended by this. I should absolutely take their word for it and avoid it like the plague."
Yeah, don't watch that movie ever.
No.
But if you want to listen to other episodes of this show, you can always check us out on any podcast app. Just search for What Were They Thinking, and we are there. Our home base, of course, is Age of Radio.
Big time.
You can also find us on Twitter and Instagram at WWTT Podcast. We have merch at Redbubble and TeePublic, and we are also on Patreon at patreon.com/WWTT Podcast. But I guess other than that, Nathan, I guess this is usually the point where I ask you questions about this movie.
Usually, yeah.
So,
do you have a question about this movie?
What the fuck
were they thinking?
Yeah.
Look inside your tiny mind, then look a bit harder, 'cause we're so uninspired, so sick and tired of all the hatred you harbor. So you say it's not okay to be gay, well I think you're just evil. You're just some racist who can't tie my laces. Your point of view is medieval.